Hello everyone, Luke here, and after the quote-unquote controversial chapter last week, although I don't think it was that controversial, I think it was more of like a split evenly down the middle. Some people loved it and some people hated it chapter. We're now getting back into what makes Dr. Stone really interesting, talking about science and theories and figuring out the mysteries of the world, like who is out there, what the Y-Man is, or what the Y-Man is on the moon. And also as well, if you have been following, go and check out Children OG's Twitch streams, which happen after the chapters are released each week on a Sunday now. I've been enjoying them. I've been loving them, having a lot of discussions with him and his guests in the chats on Twitch. It's really interesting, fascinating. So go and join his channel, get notifications of when his streams actually go. But for now, let's get into this chapter, because oh boy, the ending of this chapter, quite a bit we've got to discuss. Also, for the record, yes, I am doing this at what time is it? 1:20 in the morning. Doing this before I go to bed, so be aware of that, guys, that if I screw up, it means that I'm a little bit tired, so I might be a little bit sleepy, but I'll do my best to be as energetic as possible here. But yeah, this will be chapter 198, 2 chapters before chapter 200. We're getting there, guys. But chapter 198, titled Whole New World. I would make an Aladdin joke here, but somebody already did that, so I'll just do although based on a certain panel in this chapter, it'd be like, Stanley can show me the world with his guns and death stares, and I will use my science to be a tyrant of the air. My and Stanley's whole new world, because I am Zeno and I rule. Okay. Yeah, that's the only bit of cringe that you'll get off me ever in these chapters, me singing, which, if anyone wants to jump out of a window, there you go. Not that I'm mad, because the petrification Medusa can revive you. But anyway, starting off the chapter proper, we have Chrome thinking back on Kazuki and remembering what was actually said at the end of the last chapter, how the science team have now basically made the Medusa make humans immortal, and Chrome's just thinking about Kazuki and thinking like, Kazuki, if only we had kept him petrified, he might actually live to see the end of this journey. But they revived him normally, and Chrome is actually worried that Kazuki will actually pass on before them, and he never thought about it until it was actually brought up when he overheard the conversation between Tsukasa and Senku, where Tsukasa says the Medusa life can revive the dead, which means from this moment forth we and the rest of humanity have everlasting life. But of course, later on in the chapter, they bring up the fact that it might underline might not even be able to stop aging. So even if Kazuki was able to survive a little bit longer, they doubt that his age will be able to be reduced as well. I mean, they can revive the natural body, but I don't think the Medusa has the power to stop aging, and that's going to be an issue that's actually going to be brought up later on in the chapter. Now, in terms of the chapter itself, it's kind of like so Children Oja kind of brought this up in like at the end of the last chapter. It was seen like, oh, the Medusa and the science taboo, that's a bad thing. But in this situation, it's being seen as like a positive thing. So we're getting both sides of the argument here, which is pretty interesting. You don't often see that in a lot of series where you have the main thing, the main MacGuffin, and it's being seen as both a good thing and a bad thing. So that's kind of interesting that that's being brought up here, as Chrome is being a little bit naive here by saying, for real, awesome, that means Kazuki doesn't have to die, and it's all thanks to Y-Man. And they've been calling him a villain this whole time just cause he's scary, but he seems a swell dude at this point because he's able to keep one of their oldest friends and oldest work colleagues alive at this point, which yeah, we can see both sides. We can see Chrome's side of the argument here, but at the same time, like it's going to be said, we don't know if it will actually stop the aging process itself. Chrome then goes on to say that the Y-Man is still trying to petrify them, and we get some awesome shots in this chapter of the moon, and it's just kind of like looking down on them, and it's kind of being seen as like almost as if the Y-Man is being seen in its positive light, as well as we see on the cover page where we see just like the brightness of the moon just shining down upon them. So again, seeing the positive side of having the Medusa and having the immortality, even though it's a science taboo. But anyway, Chrome can't even get a read on this Y-Man fella, which is why they're going to have to go ahead and ask him personally before another wave of Medusa's descends upon them. And all it takes is a journey to the moon, as we get a panel shot of the moon, but we don't actually see the moon itself before we cut over to Sinu's statue, which is in the same position as it was when it was petrified. So kudos on the good continuity there. But as we can see on his face, the scars that he originally had on his face, that's beginning to show through his stone prison. So it looks like we are going to get Sinu's scars again on his face, which is a very distinctive feature of Sinu himself, in the same way that the scars on Senku is a distinctive feature of him. So it must be a lot of fun to draw those scars on Sinu's face, as they go on to say, if it's a moon mission we're planning, what's this? How convenient. We'll just have to we just so happen to have a bona fide expert in their midst, as Senku pours the last revival fluid that he has on hand, which people may see this as like a bit of a risky move on Senku's part. Even the characters say that this is kind of risky, that they're actually just gonna casually revive Sinu just like that. But of course, they need him. They need him at this point. Despite his moral compass, he's kind of the best expert they have on hand to dealing with how to actually build a rocket to get to space. Now, another thing that I want to bring up as well is like, why haven't we seen Giru Matsukazu be revived yet? Have you got something to hide, Inagaki and Boichi? Why haven't we seen them be revived yet? But that's besides the point. Tsukasa said after everyone questions like, is it really fine to just revive Sinu? Tsukasa says it'll be fine as long as we keep Stanley's statue there, but also keep him out of the fight. It'll be fine, because then Sinu, we have a bargaining chip with Stanley's statue, as Stanley kind of brought up when he was debating whether or not to shoot the revival fluid off the Medusa tower. It was like, okay, if that my statue will be preserved, and then they can cooperate with Sinu in exchange for keeping my statue at bay. And so yeah, that's kind of like their bargaining chip at the moment. And Chrome says, we've got Tsukasa on our side. Sinu won't know what hit him if he tries anything funny. But Senku goes, I don't know, guys. It ain't so much about muscles and weapons anymore. The rules of our world have changed 10 billion%, as we see Senku getting excited. And this was something that Shonen Oji brought up, is the fact that when he did his Suika video, that if you know the rules of the game, anything is possible. Even you can do the science yourselves now, but now that the rules are changing, this is going to get exciting, because it's going to be a puzzle being put together to actually being figuring out, like, okay, what are the rules now, and how can we use them to our advantage. This is something that's going to be exciting, not just for Senku, but also for Sinu as well. As Sinu is revived, and he starts to figure out what is actually going on here with the whole petrification Medusa and the immortality, goes, the light of illumination, how truly I can finite in the natural order with nefarious science, as we see him getting kind of like a bit of a tyrant vibe going on here, which, if you remember what he actually said to Byakuya in the flashback, like, oh, if you had a chance to go back to the stone world, what would you do? And he was like, I would rule over it as a dictator. This is kind of like him getting like, okay, I have this in the grasp of my hands now, but at the same time I've got to work with the junior science brigade, but at the same time I could use this to my advantage to kind of rule the world as an evil dictator, which yeah, that face from him, that's kind of like him excited in the same way as Senku, but being like, yeah, I'm going to use this device once I get my hands on it, and once I figure out and once I actually get the components myself, I'm going to use it to rule over these people. But of course, Senku already is aware of this, and is kind of on and is kind of like working a way out to make a deal with Cena at this point. As Chrome goes on to say, nefarious, you mean like bad, bad, bad. So what's so wrong? What's so wrong about it? Yeah, Chrome, I think you're not understanding what Sinu's intent is at this point, based on that panel. Before he goes on to say, nobody dying ever again sounds like the baddest sort of science. Can't wait to tell everyone. But before Crone can actually go and blab his mouth to everyone, but mind you, some people probably already know, as we'll soon see in this chapter. Anyway, Tsukasa stops him and says, living forever might be a fate worse than death. Imagine an unending world. Our planet would be covered with tens of billions or even trillions of the elderly. Now, Tsukasa brings up a good point. Whether or not you're scared of dying, being immortal is actually way worse, because of the fact that the world will just eat up all its resources at that point, and also death is just part of the natural order of life, and it's kind of the next journey of what's beyond this life, and what will we discover in death. And to not have that privilege, that seems to be a fate worse than death. Whether or not you believe you believe in a religious or a reincarnation, or you just believe that you die and you're just in an endless void. One of the main interesting things about death is finding out what actually happens when you actually get there. And to actually have that taken away from you, that's actually a fate worse than death. And I can see both sides of the argument. Like, some people are just scared of death because they're scared of the unknown. But some people are actually like, no, I actually think this is actually worse, because you'll be seeing other people around you just dying off around you, and you're not going to be able to join them, and it's kind of going to be painful on your own, and eventually you'll probably be all alone, an immortal being, but you're all alone in the world, and you've got no one to talk to, and it'll probably drive you insane. So you can see both sides of the argument, and it's all about keeping the balance of the world, basically, and to have immortality that kind of like throws the balance of the world out of order and causes chaos. Now, one thing I want to bring up is the actual image that comes over when Tsukasa says our planet will be covered with tens of billions or even trillions of the elderly, as it shows what I didn't pay much attention to this the first time when I read it, but looking back now, it does look like it representing of the entire Kingdom of Science and everyone in Ishigami Village, basically as older people, as we see Luna, and we can see Chrome, Kazuki, Ryusui, Suika, and Kohaku, and Magma as well, and I think I said Gen already, but there's and there might be others that I'm missing out on here, but looking back now, we can tell that one of them is obviously Gen, the one right smack in the middle, and the other one that's being covered by the tens of billions or even trillions of the elderly speech bubble. That's obviously Ryusui because of the captain's hat. So yeah, it's kind of scary to think of the entire Kingdom of Science as old people and on the verge of death at the same time, but at the same time it's kind of a positive thing, because it seems like they kind of want to embrace death and kind of welcome it as the next stage of life, as demonstrated by this representation here. Or maybe I'm reading too much into that, but moving on. Tsukasa even brings up that food and other resources are limited. All that would waste them is a dystopian where some tyrant plays God and chooses who must be purged via eternal petrification. As we see Senku and Sinu silently contemplating this, and Chrome is like actually proper freaked out by this, like, oh, I see what's going on here, and Sinu's like, yeah, this is kind of like Tina was kind of like being self-aware. It's like, yeah, you're kind of describing exactly what I want to do here. Before they go on to say that they still don't know if they can stave off cell decay, and the aging process, which is something I brought up earlier in the chat, because yes, even though they can drastically reduce the physicality of the body, physical limitations of the body, make it feel younger. Kalsically is still old, and I don't think there's any way to stop the aging process. They could petrify him and keep him alive for a few years, but at some point his age is going to catch up to him, and he probably will die. And also, they're bringing up the cell decay, and you have to also bring up the fact that some decay on the stones are withered so much that it's impossible to revive them. Case in point, Soyuz's father, he was confirmed, can't bring him back at all. That was pretty much confirmed. But also, Senior brings up the fact that the device battery is dead at this point, which I'm glad. Like, yes, they actually confirmed us that the battery in the Medusa is dead, so I don't think we're getting any more petrifications for a while now, which is a good thing, because if they did, then that would cause huge problems further down the line. As they go on to say, until these mysteries are solved, the big secret must remain with us for. Garen will probably have something to say about that before Tsukasa goes on to say, if any future revivees learn that they're immortal in this new world, then the rules as we know it will be shattered, and will quickly lose control. And Senior goes on to say, power over life and death itself. Dr. Stone, anyone who commands such power could truly become the perfect tyrant. Again, just further emphasizing that this is exactly what he wants, and this is probably what Red is most excited about, because again, Senior's still keeping to his convictions about that whole, I do want to rule over people, but at the same time, I don't want another person ruling over me. As he goes on to say, you decide to loop me in all the same. I wonder why you take that risk. And Senku brings up an interesting concept by actually giving him the earpiece that they used on Treasure Island to communicate with each other. As he goes on to say, our old pal Y-Man has been saying 12,800,000 meters 1 second. So Senku tuned the earpiece frequency to match that broadcast from the moon surface, and they realised that it's pure radio silence. Ryman's stony message was beaming down non-stop before, but since the second time it hit home and petrified us, he hasn't said a word. As Chrome goes, it seems clear, right, Sinu? I mean, we still don't know, but Y-Man is hell-bent on petrifying everyone as long as humans are alive in the world. And Senku goes on to say, like I said, we've got new rules in this earth. Dreams of becoming a tyrant will get you nowhere fast. And Sinu's kind of contemplating, like, they've kind of got a point here. Like, the rules have changed, and me being a tyrant is not going to help, because if I become a tyrant, then Y-Man's just going to figure that out and going to petrify me once again. So he's kind of like in a bit of a jam here, as he goes, humanity might be immortal now, but we'll pay the price for that by having a life sentence in Y-Man's stony prison. So if we ain't happy with that trade-off, and Sinu kind of just said, say no more, I kind of understand the situation here. I may still want to rule the world as a tyrant, and judging by his face here, he's probably like, that's still going to be my goal here, Senku. But for the time being, I'd much rather cooperate with you rather than having the Y-Man and that threat of that message coming down upon me by basically announcing that, hey, I'm alive again, I'm ruling the world, and having Y-Man going, I don't think so, and turning back on the petrification beam and basically wiping out Sinu once again. We cut over to next morning as we see Stanley's statue, where we see most of his outfit has decayed away, although there is kind of a few black spots on his head and on his shoulders, and a lot of people are not entirely sure where that's coming from. It could be blood, but we're not entirely sure what it is. But they go on to say that all of Stanley Snyder's assaults on us were either A, justified by acts of war, or B, attempted murder, and it's the testimony that counts. Here, and Ryusui's actually saying this, basically saying like, okay, we either say that Stanley was acting out as a soldier of war, or he was basically trying to kill us. Which is it? Which is it going to be? And they say that once civilization is up and running again, and they're ready to revive Stanley, they suppose that they can go with option A if they get Sinu's full cooperation. And Sinu is kind of debating this, like, is this actually worth it, or is it not? But eventually he does come round to it and saying, like, I would much rather go to the moon, figure out what Y-Man is doing than basically ruling over at this point. So yeah, that's kind of the only option I have at this point, where I will give you my full cooperation if you basically pardon Stanley. That's basically what it is here. And he goes on to say, and what I can offer you is my full willing cooperation as well as NASA's rocket experts. Truly an elegant exchange. So yeah, he's basically putting his friendship. We'll get to that panel in a second. Friendship with Stanley on the line here in exchange for, like, cooperating with them. Now, whether this will last, that remains to be seen here. But for now, they actually have a bargaining chip on their hands with Cena. It's like, okay, we'll pardon Stanley. We'll say, like, it was an act of war. He wasn't trying to really kill us, even though he really was. It really was towards the end of South America. But at this point, it's like, okay, if you pardon Stanley, I'll cooperate with you. I am perfectly fine with that. But Carlos and Max are a little bit skeptical about this, and about letting Sinu join the crew. But Chrome is like, I've got a feeling Sinu won't betray us or anything. Yeah, keep that in the back of your mind, because remember what happened the last time when you decided to trust Sinu? But he's saying, like, especially given the circumstances, as Gen goes, yes, that's rather key. The whole dog and pony show about dear Sinu's cooperation is mere pretense, and it's really about his pride. And this is where people are clicking, like, Gen actually knows more than he's letting on here. And he's like, whatever could you be referring to? It's like, I didn't listen to your conversation last night. No. And it's possible that Ukiyo as well, meaning that Ryusu is the only one of the five wise generals that doesn't know about this, although he may have been told about this off screen. We just don't know yet. But now we'll get into this moment here where we see Sinu looking at Stanley's statue like that. Okay, either they have a really, really strong friendship, or that is the face of a lover basically saying to their partner, like, I know you're in a petrified state right now, but rest assured, dear, I'll get you out of here eventually. I just need to cooperate with these people, but we'll be back together again at some point. Like, come on, just come out and say it now. These two are in love. And like I said, that would be amazing. That would be really amazing, getting, like, a villain gay couple, which is very rare in Weekly Shonen Jump. But what I've loved about it is the fact that it's not being spelled out for us right away. We've kind of had to, like, we as the audience kind of, like, had to piece the puzzle together, and it's like Inagaki and Borucho giving us more of the puzzle here, which I love, and I respect them for doing that. Like, not coming out and just saying, like, oh, we're gay, we're in love for each other. No, they've actually been doing it in a natural way. They've been doing it in a natural way, and been communicating to us through subtle actions and subtle hints, rather than just playing out and saying it. Which you gotta love when authors do that, when they don't actually spell out things for you and you have to actually figure it out for yourself. So again, Sinu is given the eyes of a lover here, kind of like someone who wants to actually have a kiss off their lover but knows that they can't at this point. Now, as we see Sinu walking away from Stanley's statue, we get a flashback of him working at NASA and working alongside Senku through email communication before we get them before we get Senku standing in front, Sinu standing behind, and the Dr. Stone trivia page actually said that this might be a metaphorical foreshadowing for if Xenu actually does betray Senku. It's literally stabbing him in the back because he's right behind Senku at this point. But a nice touch of this chapter is that it's possible that it's not actually shown, but we see Stanley's statue have a cigarette in his mouth. So it's possible that Xenu actually put the cigarette in Stanley's mouth as kind of like a respect for him before we see him sporting the drip by getting the big black coat on him, and also sporting the tie, which Sean and Audrey thought that Gen actually took the tie off Xenu in the last chapter, but at this point, no, it looks like he already had it. Now, where they actually got the time to make this coat, don't care. Xenu just sporting the drip there, really sporting the drip, and now we'll get into the end of the chapter. As we see Senku and Xenu working side by side, they go on to say it's taken 10 years, well, 3,700 years, for us to finally team up and build a stone world spaceship. What a good reason to get excited as we see the roadmap, like the basic roadmap. Now, I say basic because there's going to be more advanced layers to this roadmap, and that's where the chapter ends. Now, really interesting chapter. We got some insight into like the positives and the negatives of the Medusa. We're finally getting Xenu's like proper cooperation, although like I said, how long that lasts I'm not sure. But now we need to look at this roadmap because like I said, it's the basic roadmap because we see it going from level 1 to level 99. Now, dollars to donuts, there's going to be more levels to that, and we're just seeing the abridged version. Basically the main components of what is actually needed here, which is from what we can see here, we have Hastalloy, stainless steel, inconil, I probably butchered those words, the high powered dynamo, aluminium, liquid oxygen producer, energy, oil, a computer. Obviously we needed a computer for this, a rocket fuel, and we need fluorine, thorium, plastic, glass and rubber, and then we're going to get to the spaceship. But of course we skip from level 1 to level 99, which means that probably levels 20, 30, 40 all the way up to 99 are probably going to be the little components based on these other components, because they might need a roadmap for the engine, a roadmap for the oil, and a roadmap for the liquid, like so on and so forth. Now, I did my research on this actual roadmap itself. Now, this is going into some sort of technicals here, so we'll go briefly through it, and then we'll wrap up the review. So the roadmap itself, plastic and glass, and plus the oil, they've already sorted because they made plastic for the cell phone. They made glass obviously for Suika's melon, and they obviously got the oil from the Segure fields back in Japan. So they've got those components, and fluorium and thorium are common resources that can be found. Rubber is obviously going to be found in Rubber City, which is going to be in Indonesia. The same thing with aluminium. That's going to be in Australia. Now, the metals themselves. We'll first start with the haste alloy, and that's and I couldn't find like where that's actually located. The only evidence that I could find is Indiana, which having a big company that provides corrosion resistance, which obviously they will need if they're actually going into space and they want to not have their spaceship break apart in the atmosphere. Now, stainless steel itself can actually be found in China. Like, China is the largest producer of stainless steel, and they'll need for the inconio, they'll need nickel alloy, which from my research I found that it's found in Asia Pacifica, which is China, Korea, India and Japan. But also they'll need for the inconio, they'll need coronium in combination with nickel alloy, which I'm probably butchering these names. But that's what they'll need. They'll need coronium in combination with nickel alloy to make the inconio which is found in Africa, India, Turkey, and Kazakhstan. Now, the computer might be made in Math City. I think that's the general conception of it. And the two level 99s, I think, are going to be testing and building the spacesuits themselves. Now, here's what I thought. Here's what I thought they were going to do. I thought they were actually, in terms of what Inconium alloy they're going to be using for the spaceship. I initially thought they were going to be using the 625 one, but it's very likely. That they're going to be using the X715 alloy, because that's super resistant to heat. It can resist up to 1800 degrees from the research that I did online, and that's probably going to be the best bet. That's what I said when I typed in what is used on NASA spaceships. That this was the Inconium that was brought up, the X715 alloy, because it's super resistant to the atmosphere itself. And the key properties in here is the tensile strength, which is 160 to 1050, and the yield strength, which is 100 to 105, and the elongation, which is 15 to 20%. I don't know what all those means, but it seems like they're basically the strongest that they can get now. Now, the components that are needed to actually make the Insul X715, and where they're actually located, is obviously nickel and cobalt, which is found in Africa, coronium, which is found in Africa, iron they've already got, titanium is found in Australia. They'll need niobium, which is found in Brazil and Africa, so they're obviously in Brazil, in South America now, so they can find it there. But they'll also need titanium, which is found in Australia. Aluminium, obviously they'll find in Australia. Magnesium they've got, because they needed the manganese rice bowls to make the batteries for the actual cell phone itself, so they've already got that covered. Silicon, I believe that's found in the quartz sand, because that was one of the components needed to actually make the glass. Sulfone, which they've already got, which is the acid that they found in Japan itself. Copper, they've got. Carbon, which is found in rocks, and like I said, cobalt, which is found in Africa. And stainless steel, even though it's produced in China, it's made from many of the minerals such as carbon, magnesium, coronium, silicon, iron, and nickel. Which, based on what I'm saying here, it seems like they're probably actually going to go to Africa, because they'll need to go to Africa to get the cobalt needed for this insomnia. And Africa has a lot of minerals there. There's a lot of minerals like diamonds as well, and platinum, which they can use to make more revival fluid, and obviously diamonds for the Medusa itself. So we might actually get a South Africa arc, and calling it Mineral City, which is what I've written down in one of my notes, because South Africa was the largest producer of nickel at some point, with 47%. Although it's not really on one of the nickel is not. Africa doesn't produce like the most nickel. The one that produces most of it is Indonesia, with 21 million tons, which is obviously where Rubber City is going to be taking place. Australia with 20 million, which is where Aluminium City is going to be taking place, and Brazil, where they are now, which is 16 million. So this is like the tons as well. But of course, they'll still need to go to Africa, like I said, because it's basically a mineral heaven with platinum, copper, basically any mineral they can get their hands on, including, like I said, cobalt. They'll actually need to go to Africa as well. And what else was there? And also, the nibonium might actually be there as well. So it seems that I actually thought that we would actually go to India as well, because there seems to be nickel alloy in India as well, and also with coronium found in nickel as well. And that's another thing they need. Did I put it down? Coronium. Yeah, coronium. They need to go to Africa to get that as well. So the two of the main ingredients that they need to get from Africa are coronium and cobalt, and apparently that's where they can be found the most. So that we are probably going to get a South Africa arc. probably calling it Mineral City, because if you realise, we had Australia, Indonesia, Math City, Corn City, and Super Alloy City. Those were all on continents of the world, on 5 of the 7 continents of the world. The only other like mostly man-handled continent that wasn't on that map was Africa. So we might actually go to South Africa, get these other minerals, call it Mineral City. That'll be an interesting arc, and it'll probably be one that will be added to the list, because as we were saying in the chats and everything, Dr. Stone could go on for years at this point, and we do have sort of like the end game sort of like being set up in this chapter with the roadmap for the spaceship. But as we know, there's going to be a lot of little components to go through. I doubt I wouldn't be surprised if we start off with the minerals, and it's like, okay, this is level 1 and this is going to take us up to level like 10, basically, to get these minerals and get what we need. Basically, that's going to be a roadmap in and of itself. Like, the roadmap here is just the basic outline of what the main ingredients are, but there's probably going to be other little roadmaps underneath. And the way we can back this up is if you actually go back to I'll actually show you the roadmap as well. Like, oh yeah, I left out the rocket energy, but yeah, you can see just how crazy that roadmap is. Like, just the little components that actually have to go in and how everything needs to be connected 100%. But yeah, if we go back to let's see, it was chapter 140 one, was it 441? Let's see. Yeah, this is the chapter. So you see, next up we're invading the moon. We're gonna have a blast crafting a spaceship, and here's the roadmap. So you can see Senku in that chapter holding a scroll, and there's a whole bunch of other scrolls underneath it. Like, there's probably about 10 or so scrolls, so that's probably going to be a case of like, okay, level 1 to 10, level 10 to 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up to level 100 to get the spaceship. So that's probably what this is actually referencing. Like, okay, we have the basic map outline of what we'll actually need, but also we need the little other components underneath to actually make this a reality, because this is a huge project that they're going off on here, and I cannot wait to see it. And I am rambling right now, so I'm just going to wrap it up here. Once again, really great chapter. Got some insight into the Medusa, got some character development on Tsukasa, Senku and Sinu's part, and also Chrome as well, and ending off on a massive high point with actually seeing what the basic outline of the spaceship roadmap is. And I can't wait to see what levels 1 to 99 are actually going to be, and what level 99 is actually going to be, because I think level 99 is going to be 2 other roadmaps in of itself. Like I said, testing the spaceship itself and also building the spacesuits. I think those are the 2 like level 99s that we're going for here. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.